27, 28, 29, 30. Maya's hands trembled as she counted the crumpled bills for the fourth time, hoping somehow the numbers would change. $30. That's all that stood between her twins turning 7 with smiles on their faces, or with the crushing realization that Mommy couldn't even afford to make their birthday special. Mommy, are we really going to the restaurant? Emma's voice pierced through Maya's panic, those bright green eyes, asterisk as asterisk eyes, looking up at her with such trust it made her chest ache. Of course, sweetheart. The lie came easier than it should have. Mommy promised, didn't she? And we can get the chicken fingers? Lucas chimed in, bouncing on his toes with the same restless energy that used to drive her crazy in someone else. Maya forced her brightest smile. We'll see what looks good, okay? The walk to Penny's diner took 12 minutes. She'd timed it last week during her reconnaissance mission. 12 minutes to figure out how to stretch $30 into a birthday dinner for 3, plus maybe a shared slice of cake if she was lucky. 12 minutes to practice looking like she belonged anywhere other than the clearance aisle of the grocery store. Can we sit by the window? Emma asked as they approached the familiar red door. Whatever makes you happy, birthday girl. Whatever makes you happy, the words tasted bitter. She'd said those exact words to him once, back when she thought love meant sacrifice. Back when she thought he'd choose her over his family's expectations. Back when she was naive enough to believe promises whispered in college dorm rooms could survive in the real world. The hostess led them to a booth by the window, and Maya's heart nearly stopped. There, at the table directly next to theirs, sat Alexander Hartwell. Not some lookalike. Not her exhausted mind playing tricks. Him. The same sharp jawline, the same dark hair now perfectly styled instead of perpetually messy. The same hands that used to trace patterns on her skin now wrapped around what looked like a $50 glass of wine. He was older, obviously. More polished. The kind of expensive that came from never having to count 20s in a parking lot. His suit probably cost more than her rent. Hell, his watch probably cost more than her car. Maya ducked her head, blood roaring in her ears. Asterisk, don't look up. Don't look up. Don't asterisk. Mommy, you're squeezing my hand too tight, Lucas whispered. Sorry, baby. She loosened her grip, but couldn't make herself let go entirely. If she let go, she might do something stupid. Like march over there and demand answers. Like ask him if he ever wondered what happened to her after he chose Daddy's money over their future. Like tell him about the 2 tiny humans sitting across from her who had his eyes and his stubborn chin and his brilliant mind that asked questions she couldn't always answer. Welcome to Penny's. What can I start you folks with today? The waitress's cheerful voice felt like a slap. Maya's throat had gone completely dry. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. We're 7 today, Emma announced proudly. Well, not till tomorrow, but Mommy said we could celebrate early. Well, happy early birthday. That's so exciting. The waitress beamed. And what would our birthday girl like? Maya forced herself to focus on the menu, even though the numbers were swimming. Chicken fingers, $8.99. Mac and cheese, $6.99. Kids' portions that would still leave them hungry. Can we have chocolate cake? Lucas asked. The waitress glanced at Maya expectantly. Cake slices, $4.99 each. That was $15 just for dessert. $15 that would mean no lunch tomorrow. We'll see about dessert, Maya managed. From the corner of her eye, she caught movement at the next table. Alexander was gesturing to someone, his voice low but familiar in a way that made her ribs feel too tight. Actually, you know what? Alexander's voice cut through her panic. I'd like to buy this family's dinner. Maya's head snapped up so fast her neck cracked. Their eyes met for the first time in 7 years, and the universe tilted sideways. Recognition flickered across his face, surprise, confusion, and something else she couldn't name. His mouth opened, then closed. That's very kind, the waitress said. But I insist. Alexander's voice was steady, but Maya caught the slight tremor. It's their birthday. Emma and Lucas were staring between Maya and this stranger with wide, curious eyes. They had no idea they were looking at the man whose DNA they carried. No idea he was the reason Maya worked 3 jobs and still came up short. No idea that every time they asked about their daddy, she died a little inside. We don't need, Maya started. Please. The word came out rougher than he'd probably intended. Let me do this. And in that moment, Maya realized the cruelest truth of all. After 7 years of hating him, of struggling alone, of wondering if she'd made the right choice in never telling him about the twins. Part of her still loved him, which meant she was about to let the man who destroyed her life buy her children dinner. And she had absolutely no idea what came next. The silence stretched between them like a chasm while Emma and Lucas studied their unexpected benefactor with the fearless curiosity only 7-year-olds possessed. "Are you a prince?" Emma asked suddenly. "You look like a prince." Alexander's laugh was shaky. "No, sweetheart. Just a businessman." "What kind of business?" Lucas chimed in, leaning forward with interest. Maya watched Alexander's face soften in a way that made her heart clench. This was exactly how he'd looked when they used to volunteer at the children's hospital together, back when she thought she knew who he really was. "I help build things," Alexander said carefully. "Buildings mostly. Places where people can live and work." "That's so cool." Lucas's eyes lit up. "I want to build things too. Mommy says I'm good at puzzles." "Puzzles are definitely important for building," Alexander agreed, glancing at Maya with something that looked almost like wonder. The waitress returned with their drinks, and Maya realized she hadn't even heard what they'd ordered. Her world had narrowed to this impossible moment. Watching the father her children had never known charm them effortlessly while they had no idea who he was. "So," Alexander said after the waitress left, his voice carefully neutral. "Maya, it's been a long time. 7 years." The number came out sharper than she'd intended. 7 years, he repeated, and she caught him glancing at the twins with new calculation in his eyes. Math he was surely doing in his head. Emma, oblivious to the undercurrents, was chattering about school. "We're learning about butterflies. Did you know some of them travel thousands of miles? Like, they go from here all the way to Mexico." "That's incredible," Alexander said, but his attention was fixed on Maya now. 7 years. A lot can change. A lot can change. Like discovering you're pregnant 2 weeks after the man you love tells you his father will disown him if he doesn't break up with you immediately. Like spending 9 months throwing up every morning while working double shifts to save money for babies you'll raise alone. Like explaining to 2 beautiful children why they don't have a daddy when you're not even sure of the answer yourself. "Yes," Maya said quietly. "It can." The food arrived faster than she'd expected. Probably because Alexander had the kind of presence that made waitstaff move quickly. The twins dug into their chicken fingers with enthusiasm, and Maya forced herself to take small bites of her salad, even though her stomach was twisted in knots. "Mommy, aren't you hungry?" Emma asked, sauce on her chin. "Just thinking, baby." "About what?" About how your father used to promise he'd never let his family's money come between us. About how he said love was more important than anything his trust fund could buy. About how he looked me in the eye and said he'd rather have nothing with me than everything without me. Right up until his father threatened to cut him off completely. Adult stuff, Maya said instead. Alexander was quiet, but she could feel his eyes on her. When she finally looked up, his expression was unreadable. Could I speak with you privately for a moment?" he asked quietly. Maya's pulse spiked. "I don't think. Please. Just for a minute." Emma and Lucas were absorbed in their food and a conversation about whether butterflies could carry tiny passengers. Maya reluctantly stood, following Alexander a few steps away from the table. Up close, he looked tired. Successful, polished, expensive, but tired in a way that went deeper than sleepless nights. "They're beautiful," he said softly, glancing back at the twins. Maya's chest tightened. "Alexander, how old did she say they were?" The question hung between them like a loaded gun. Maya lifted her chin. 7. "Well, 7 tomorrow." His jaw clenched. "Maya." "What?" "Look at me." She did, and immediately regretted it. Those eyes had always been her weakness. Dark brown, almost black, with flecks of gold that caught the light when he was passionate about something. Right now, they were full of questions she wasn't ready to answer. "Are they mine?" The words hit her like a physical blow. Part of her had known this moment would come, had rehearsed it in her head 1,000 times over the years. But nothing had prepared her for the reality of it. "Does it matter?" she whispered. "Does it?" He stared at her incredulously. "Maya, if those children are mine, then what?" The words came out louder than she'd intended, and she glanced nervously at the twins. Emma was watching them curiously. Maya lowered her voice. "Then what, Alexander? You'll suddenly want to be a father? You'll choose them over your family's approval." His face went pale. "That's not fair." "Fair?" Maya felt 7 years of suppressed rage bubbling up. "You want to talk about fair?" Fair would have been you fighting for us. Fair would have been. I tried. His voice cracked. Do you think that was easy for me? Do you think I wanted to choose? But you did choose. The words came out calm, deadly quiet. You chose your inheritance. Your family name. Your precious reputation. You chose everything that came with being a Hartwell except the one thing that actually mattered. Alexander opened his mouth to respond, but Emma's voice cut through the tension. Mommy, is everything okay? Maya turned to see both twins watching them with worried expressions. Lucas had stopped eating entirely, his little face creased with concern. Everything's fine, sweetheart, Maya said, forcing brightness into her voice. We're just talking. But as she walked back to the table, she caught Alexander's reflection in the window. He was standing there, staring at the twins with an expression of such raw longing and regret that it nearly broke her heart all over again. And that's when the worst realization hit her. After 7 years of believing she hated him, of telling herself she was better off without him, of building a life that didn't need him, seeing him look at their children like that made her wonder if she'd been wrong about everything. Which was exactly when her phone buzzed with a text message that made her blood run cold. Asterisk unknown number. Saw the news about Hartwell Development's new family-friendly housing project. Interesting timing. Some investors might be very curious about his sudden interest in children. M asterisk. Maya's hands shook as she realized what this meant. Someone knew. Someone had seen them together, recognized them both, and was already making connections. And if the media found out Alexander Hartwell had secret children, it wouldn't just destroy his carefully constructed image. It would destroy her twins' entire world. Maya stared at the text message, her vision tunneling. The noise of the restaurant faded to white static as the implications crashed over her like a tsunami. Mommy, Lucas's voice sounded far away. You look funny. She forced herself to breathe, to smile, to be present for the two little people who needed her to hold it together. But her mind was racing. Who was M? How did they know about Alexander? How long had they been watching? Just work stuff, baby. She slipped the phone into her purse with trembling fingers. Alexander had returned to his seat at the neighboring table, but she could feel his eyes on her. When she glanced over, his expression was sharp with concern. Another buzz. Maya's heart stopped. Asterisk unknown number. Tick-tock, Maya. Wonder what those adorable twins would think about photographers camping outside their school? M asterisk. This time, she couldn't hide her reaction. A small sound escaped her throat, part gasp, part sob, and Alexander was on his feet instantly. Maya? What's wrong? Emma and Lucas were watching now, chicken fingers forgotten. Their identical worried expressions, so much like their father's when he was concerned, made Maya's chest tight with panic. I need to. She stood too quickly, swaying slightly. We need to go. Kids, finish up. But we didn't get cake, Emma protested. Cake another time, sweetheart. Alexander moved closer, lowering his voice. Whatever's happening, let me help. You've helped enough. But even as she said it, Maya realized the terrible truth. She was going to need him. Whoever M was, they had resources, knowledge, and the willingness to threaten children. Maya worked 3 jobs and lived paycheck to paycheck. She didn't have the money or connections to fight this kind of threat. Her phone buzzed again. Asterisk unknown number, 1 hour. Riverside Park, south entrance. Come alone, or the story breaks tonight. Your choice. M asterisk. Oh God. The words slipped out before she could stop them. Maya, talk to me. Alexander's voice was urgent. What's going on? She looked at him, really looked. Despite everything that had happened between them, despite 7 years of raising their children alone, despite the fact that he'd chosen his family's money over their love, he was the twins' father. And right now, someone was threatening to destroy their innocent lives. Someone knows, she whispered. About them. About you. Alexander's face went deadly pale. What do you mean someone knows? Maya showed him the messages, watching his expression grow darker with each word. When he finished reading, his jaw was clenched so tight she could see the muscle jumping. Marcus, he said quietly, and something in his tone made her blood chill. You know who this is? Marcus Reed. My father's fixer. Alexander's voice was bitter. He handles family problems that need to disappear. Your father sent him? No. Alexander's laugh was hollow. That's the problem. Marcus went rogue 6 months ago. He's been blackmailing prominent families with their secrets. The FBI has a whole task force trying to track him down. Maya felt the world tilt. He's blackmailing people? He knows where all the bodies are buried. Every family secret, every covered-up scandal, every inconvenient truth that powerful people pay to keep hidden. Alexander met her eyes. Including the fact that Charles Hartwell's son had children with a woman he was forced to abandon. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Your father made you break up with me. He threatened to destroy your family's bakery, your parents' mortgage, your sister's college loans. He said he'd call them all in at once if I didn't disappear from your life. Alexander's voice was raw. I thought I was protecting you. Maya stared at him, 7 years of carefully constructed hatred crumbling. Why didn't you tell me? Because I knew you. You would have fought him, and he would have crushed you. At least this way, you had a chance. A chance? Maya's voice broke. I was pregnant, Alexander. I was alone and pregnant and working 2 jobs to keep our children fed while you were. While I was in therapy twice a week trying not to kill myself, he said quietly. While I was drinking myself unconscious every night because I couldn't forget your face when I walked away. While I was building a company from nothing because I couldn't touch my trust fund. Couldn't take a dime of money that came from destroying us. The admission hung between them like a bridge neither had expected to cross. Mommy, you're crying, Emma said softly. Maya wiped her eyes quickly, but it was too late. Both twins were staring at her with the kind of worried expressions children shouldn't have to wear. I'm okay, baby. Just. She looked at Alexander, then at the phone that held messages threatening her children's safety, then back at the 2 innocent faces watching her with trust she wasn't sure she deserved. Just surprised about something. Alexander moved closer. Maya, listen to me. Marcus is dangerous. He's not just some corporate spy, he's desperate. The FBI is closing in, and desperate people do unpredictable things. What does he want? Money, probably. Or maybe leverage against my father. Alexander's expression was grim. But he's not going to disappear quietly. And once this story breaks, the twins will never have normal lives, Maya finished. The media circus, the paparazzi, the constant speculation about their lives. All the things she'd worked so hard to protect them from. Another message arrived. Asterisk unknown number. 45 minutes, Maya. And bring Daddy. Time for a family reunion. M asterisk. Alexander read over her shoulder, his face going white. He knows I'm here. He's watching us? Has to be. Which means... Alexander's eyes went wide with realization. Maya, we need to leave. Now. If he's been watching, he knows where the kids go to school, where you live, everything. The full scope of the threat hit her like a freight train. This wasn't just about money or embarrassment. This was about her children's safety. What do we do? She whispered. Alexander's expression shifted, and suddenly she could see the businessman he'd become. Calculating, strategic, decisive. We go to the meeting. But not the way he expects. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling my security team. They'll follow us, keep the kids safe. Alexander, I can't afford. This isn't about money. His voice was fierce. These are my children. My responsibility. I should have been protecting them all along. Emma tugged on Maya's sleeve. Mommy, what's happening? You're scaring me. Maya knelt down to eye level with both twins, her heart breaking at their confused, frightened faces. Remember how we talked about how sometimes grown-ups have to handle difficult things? They nodded solemnly. Well, your dad, she caught herself just in time. This nice man and I have to go take care of something important. But you're going to stay somewhere safe while we do that, okay? Are we in trouble? Lucas asked, his voice small. No, sweetheart. You didn't do anything wrong. This is just complicated grown-up stuff. Alexander was already making calls, his voice low and urgent. When he hung up, he turned to Maya with an expression of absolute determination. My team will be here in 10 minutes. They'll take the twins somewhere safe while we deal with Marcus. I don't even know you anymore, Maya said desperately. How do I know I can trust you with their lives? Alexander knelt down beside her, his face level with the twins. For a moment, he just looked at them, really looked like he was memorizing every detail. Because they're the most important thing in the world, he said simply. And I've already failed them once. I won't do it again. Emma, fearless as always, reached out and touched Alexander's face. You look sad. A little, he admitted. It's okay, she said seriously. Mommy says being sad sometimes means you care a lot about something. Alexander's eyes filled with tears. He blinked away quickly. Your mommy is very smart. And in that moment, Maya realized the most devastating truth of all. She was about to trust the man who had shattered her heart with the lives of the children they'd created together. Because she didn't have any other choice. The black SUV arrived exactly when Alexander had promised, but Maya's hands still shook as she helped buckle the twins into the back seat. The security team looked professional, reassuring, but she was putting her children in a car with strangers because the alternative was letting them become targets. "Where are they going?" she whispered to Alexander as Emma and Lucas waved goodbye through the tinted windows. "Safe house in the suburbs. My head of security, James, has 3 kids of his own. They'll be fine." But Alexander's jaw was tight with tension that said he was trying to convince himself as much as her. The SUV pulled away, taking Maya's entire world with it. For 7 years, she hadn't been separated from the twins for more than a school day. Now they were disappearing into traffic while she prepared to face down a dangerous man who'd been watching their family like prey. "This is insane," she breathed. "Yeah." Alexander was scrolling through his phone, jaw clenched. "It gets worse. I just got word that Marcus released a preliminary story to 3 major gossip blogs. Nothing definitive yet, but the speculation is already starting." Maya's phone buzzed with notifications, texts from her sister, her co-workers, even her landlord. Someone had already connected the dots. Sarah. "OMG Maya, is this real?" Channel 7 just did a segment about Alexander Hartwell having a mystery family. Caroline. "Boss need to talk ASAP. Reporters called the restaurant asking about you. David, landlord, hey Maya. Weird question, but are there going to be news crews outside my building?" "It's starting," Maya said, voice hollow. "They're going to tear apart everything I've built." Alexander stopped walking and turned to face her. They were standing outside the restaurant now, and Maya could see their reflection in the window. 2 people who looked like they belonged in completely different worlds, bound together by crisis and children and a love story that had imploded 7 years ago. "I won't let that happen," he said quietly. "How can you stop it? You couldn't stop your father 7 years ago. Because 7 years ago, I was a 22-year-old kid who thought money was the only kind of power that mattered." Alexander's voice was steady, but she caught the steel underneath. "I've learned a few things since then." They started walking toward Alexander's car. A sleek BMW that probably cost more than Maya made in 2 years. As he held the passenger door open for her, Maya was struck by how surreal this all was. 3 hours ago, she'd been counting crumpled bills in a parking lot. Now she was climbing into a luxury car with her ex-lover to face down a blackmailer who threatened their children. "You said you built your company from nothing," Maya said as Alexander navigated through traffic toward Riverside Park. "What did you mean?" His hands tightened on the steering wheel. "After we broke up, I couldn't touch my trust fund. Every dollar felt like blood money. So I started over. Took out loans, worked construction jobs during the day, developed business plans at night. But Hartwell Development is mine. Built from the ground up with money I earned, not inherited." Alexander's smile was bitter. "My father hates it. Says I'm throwing away everything he worked for. But I couldn't live with myself if I built a life on the foundation of destroying ours." Maya stared at him, processing this revelation. "That's why you were at a place like Penny's Diner. I eat there twice a week. Best coffee in the city, and nobody expects to see Alexander Hartwell in a place that doesn't take reservations. You've been coming to my neighborhood for years?" "Maya, he stopped, as if catching himself before saying something he couldn't take back. "What?" Alexander was quiet for a long moment, focused intensely on the road. When he finally spoke, his voice was careful. "I kept track of you. Not in a creepy way, just, I needed to know you were okay. That you were happy." Maya's chest tightened. "You knew about the twins. I knew you had children. I didn't know." He swallowed hard. "I didn't let myself think about timing. About possibilities. It felt too much like hope, and hope was dangerous." The admission hung between them as they pulled into the parking lot. Maya could see the south entrance in the distance, but no sign of Marcus yet. "Alexander, there's something you need to know." Maya's voice was shakier than she wanted it to be. "When you left, I found out I was pregnant 2 weeks later." His knuckles went white on the steering wheel. "I tried to call you. For months. Your number was disconnected, your apartment was empty. Even your friends said they didn't know where you'd gone. My father made sure of that." Alexander's voice was rough. "New phone, new address, new everything." He said clean breaks were cleaner. "I was so angry." The words came out in a rush. "I convinced myself you wouldn't want them anyway. That you'd chosen your family's approval over me, so why would children be different? Maya, I was wrong, wasn't I? You would have come back if you'd known. Alexander turned to face her fully, and the pain in his eyes was raw enough to make her flinch. I would have burned my father's empire to the ground if I'd known you were carrying my children. Before Maya could respond, her phone buzzed. Asterisk unknown number. Sweet reunion, but playtime's over. See the bench by the pond? Start walking. M asterisk. Maya's blood chilled as she realized what this meant. He's been watching us this whole time. Alexander followed her gaze to scan the park. There, the man in the baseball cap by the playground. He's been on his phone since we arrived, and he hasn't looked at the kids once. That's him. No, that's surveillance. Marcus will be somewhere he can see everything, but disappear quickly if this goes wrong. Alexander's phone buzzed with a text. James confirms the twins are secure. No one followed them. Okay. Maya took a shaky breath. So we just walk over there and see what he wants. Maya, before we do this, Alexander caught her hand as she reached for the door handle. Whatever happens in there, whatever he says or shows us, I need you to know something. What? I never stopped loving you. Not for a single day in 7 years. And I know I have no right to say that. I know I lost that right when I walked away, but if something goes wrong. Maya cut him off by pressing her lips to his. The kiss was desperate. 7 years of pain and longing and unfinished love compressed into a moment of connection before they walked into danger. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. If you're lying to me again, Maya whispered. If this is some elaborate manipulation. It's not. Alexander's forehead rested against hers. I swear on our children's lives, it's not. They walked toward the bench hand in hand, and Maya tried not to think about how natural it felt. How right, despite everything. How much she'd missed the way Alexander's presence made her feel like she could handle anything. The bench was empty when they arrived, but a manila envelope sat prominently in the center. Well, this is ominous, Maya muttered. Alexander picked up the envelope and opened it carefully. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Pictures of Maya leaving for work, of the twins at school, of their apartment building. But the ones that made Maya's stomach drop were older. Pictures of her pregnant, clearly struggling, looking exhausted and alone. He's been watching for years, Alexander said, voice tight with fury. At the bottom of the stack was a note, asterisk touching reunion. But you're missing the best part. Check your email. M asterisk. Alexander's phone chimed with a new message. When he opened it, his face went white. What is it? Without a word, he handed her the phone. The email contained a single video file. Maya hit play and immediately wished she hadn't. The video was security footage from 7 years ago, the night Alexander had come to her apartment to break up with her. But it wasn't just the painful conversation she remembered. This was footage from earlier that evening, showing Alexander arriving at his father's house, the argument that followed, and Charles Hartwell's explicit threats about destroying her family. But worse than that was what came after Alexander left. Footage of Charles Hartwell making phone calls, setting the wheels in motion to ensure Alexander could never find Maya again. Phone numbers disconnected, forwarding addresses changed. Even her work schedule altered so Alexander's attempts to reach her would fail. He made sure you couldn't find me, Maya whispered. Even when you tried. The video ended with a timestamp, 2 weeks after their breakup. The same day Maya had discovered she was pregnant. Alexander's phone rang, making them both jump. Answer it, Maya said quietly. Alexander Hartwell, he said, voice steady despite the fury in his eyes. Hello, son. The voice was crisp, familiar, and completely unexpected. Dad. Alexander went rigid. How did you really think Marcus was working alone? Charles Hartwell's laugh was cold. He's been my insurance policy for months. A way to keep track of loose ends that might need tying up. Maya felt the bottom drop out of her world as the truth crashed over her. This wasn't Marcus going rogue. This was Alexander's father, finishing what he'd started 7 years ago. I have to admit I'm impressed. Charles Hartwell's voice carried through the phone speaker with the casual confidence of a man who held all the cards. 7 years of careful orchestration, and you both played your parts beautifully. Alexander's grip on the phone was so tight Maya worried it might shatter. What are you talking about? The struggling single mother. The guilt-ridden son building his empire from nothing. The chance encounter that brings star-crossed lovers back together. Charles chuckled. It's like something out of a romance novel. Maya felt ice spreading through her veins. Chance encounter? Oh, my dear girl. Did you really think Alexander just happened to be at that little diner? The same diner you've been taking the children to every Friday for 3 months. Maya's world tilted. She stared at Alexander, searching his face for denial, for confusion, for anything that would prove Charles was lying. Alexander had gone completely still. No, Maya whispered. Alexander has been having you watched for months, Charles continued, his voice warm with satisfaction. Not maliciously, of course. He was concerned about your welfare. Wanted to make sure you were managing well. That's not, Alexander started, but his voice cracked. Isn't it? Charles's tone sharpened. Tell her about the reports, son. Tell her about the private investigators' monthly updates on Maya Chun and her twin children. Tell her about the anonymous scholarship fund that's been paying for their after-school programs. Maya felt like she was drowning. You've been watching us? Maya, I can explain. Tell her about the job promotion at the restaurant, Charles interrupted. The one that came with a convenient raise just when her rent increased. Tell her about the car repairs that mysteriously got cheaper. Tell her about... Stop. Alexander's voice was broken. Just stop. But Charles was just getting started. You see, Maya, my son never got over you. Never moved on. Never stopped trying to fix the mess he believed he'd made. But he was so afraid of disrupting your life that he convinced himself helping from the shadows was noble. Maya backed away from Alexander, her heart shattering with each revelation. How long? Maya, please. How long have you been manipulating my life? Alexander's silence was answer enough. 3 years, Charles supplied helpfully. Ever since Alexander hired the investigator. Of course, I've been keeping tabs much longer than that. Insurance, you understand. Insurance against what? Maya's voice was barely a whisper. Against exactly this moment. Against my son's sentimental weakness threatening everything I've built. Charles's voice turned cold. Did you think I'd let 2 illegitimate children destroy the Hartwell legacy? Alexander lunged for the phone. If you touch them, I don't need to touch them, son. I just need to make them disappear. Maya's knees nearly gave out. What does that mean? It means, my dear, that you have a choice. Take a very generous settlement, enough to relocate somewhere far away and give the children excellent lives, or watch as your entire world crumbles. Your jobs, your apartment, your sister's medical bills that you don't know I've been helping with. Sarah's cancer treatments, Maya breathed. The experimental therapy that insurance wouldn't cover. The bills that somehow kept getting reduced. The anonymous donor who'd made her sister's survival possible. All me, Charles confirmed. Amazing how much goodwill a few well-placed donations can buy. But charity can be withdrawn just as easily as it's given. Maya felt sick. Every break she'd caught in the last 3 years, every stroke of luck that had kept her family afloat, it had all been Charles Hartwell pulling strings. And if I refuse? Then the story breaks. Not just about Alexander's secret children, but about everything. Maya Chun, the woman who trapped a billionaire's son with pregnancy lies. Maya Chun, who's been blackmailing the Hartwell family for years. Maya Chun, the unfit mother who's been under investigation by Child Services for. That's a lie, Alexander roared. Is it? I have very convincing documentation. Photos of the children looking malnourished, clever angles and lighting, you understand. Reports of Maya's gambling problem. Casino security footage can be quite compelling when properly edited. Witness statements about her drinking, her instability, her threats against the Hartwell family. Maya couldn't breathe. You're going to take my children. I'm going to save them, Charles corrected. From a mother who's clearly struggling with addiction and mental health issues. My son's children deserve better than that. Maya has never, Alexander started. Alexander, you're not thinking clearly. Obviously you're emotionally compromised where this woman is concerned. That's why I've already filed for emergency custody on your behalf. The words hit Maya like physical blows. On his behalf? Alexander is their father. He has rights. And when a concerned family member presents evidence of an unfit home environment. Charles's voice was smooth as silk. Well, judges tend to act quickly to protect children. I never authorized. Alexander was shaking with fury. You didn't need to. I have power of attorney over all family legal matters when you're deemed mentally incompetent. And your current emotional state certainly qualifies. Maya stared at Alexander with horror. You're going to let him do this? Maya, no. I would never. Wouldn't you? Charles interrupted. Look at her, son. Really look. Does this seem like a stable woman capable of raising Hartwell heirs? She's barely keeping her head above water financially, emotionally fragile, clearly overwhelmed. She's an amazing mother, Alexander said fiercely. Is she? Then why has she been lying to those children about their father for 7 years? Why has she been denying them their birthright, their family, their heritage? What kind of mother steals a father from his children? Maya felt the words like daggers. Because underneath the manipulation and cruelty, there was a grain of truth that cut deeper than any lie. She had kept the twins from their father. She had made that choice day after day, year after year. Maya, Alexander reached for her, but she stepped back. Don't touch me. You have to know I never wanted this. Do I? Maya's voice broke. How do I know what's real anymore? How do I know you haven't been playing some long game this entire time? Because I love you. The words tore out of Alexander like they'd been ripped from his chest. Because I've loved you every day for 7 years, and I would never hurt you or the children. But you did hurt us, Maya whispered. You had us watched. You manipulated our lives. You made me think I was finally getting somewhere on my own when it was all just charity. It wasn't charity, it was pity. Maya's voice was hollow. Poor Maya, struggling to raise the bastard children alone. Poor Maya, too proud to ask for help but too weak to make it on her own. That's not how I saw it. It doesn't matter how you saw it. Maya exploded. It matters what you did. You took away my choices, my agency, my right to fail or succeed on my own terms. Alexander's face crumpled. I just wanted to help. By lying to me? By treating me like a charity case? By making sure I never knew if anything I accomplished was real. Maya's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, but she knew it wasn't Marcus this time. Asterisk James, security problem. Children are safe, but someone called in a tip about suspicious activity at the safe house. Police en route. Need extraction instructions, asterisk. Maya showed Alexander the message with shaking hands. He's forcing us to move them, Alexander said, his voice tight with panic. Where? Maya's voice was barely a whisper. Where can we take them that your father won't find them? Alexander's silence stretched too long. There isn't anywhere, is there? Maya realized. He has too much power, too many connections. There's nowhere to run. Another text arrived. Asterisk Charles Hartwell. The children are being transferred to a secure location for their safety while custody is sorted out. You have 1 hour to decide. Settlement and supervised visitation, or I destroy all of you. Your choice. See asterisk. Maya stared at the message, the full scope of her powerlessness crashing over her. Charles Hartwell didn't just have money. He had systems, connections, the ability to make her look unfit while positioning himself as the children's savior. And Alexander, despite his protestations of love, had been complicit in 3 years of manipulation that had led to this moment. I need to see them, Maya said quietly. Maya, I need to see my children before I lose them forever. Alexander's face was devastated. You're not going to lose them. I won't let that happen. How? Maya laughed bitterly. You're going to fight your father? The same man you couldn't stand up to 7 years ago? The same man who just orchestrated this entire nightmare. Yes, Alexander said fiercely. Whatever it takes. Even if it means losing everything? Your company, your fortune, your family name. Alexander met her eyes, and for a moment she saw the boy she'd fallen in love with in college. Passionate, idealistic, willing to fight the world for what he believed in. Maya, you and those children are everything. The rest is just noise. And despite everything, despite the lies and manipulation and betrayal, Maya felt her heart crack open one more time, which made it hurt even more when her phone rang and she saw her sister's name on the caller ID. Maya. Sarah's voice was weak, scared. They're saying the treatment program is being canceled. Something about irregularities in the funding. Maya, without this treatment. Maya closed her eyes, understanding the final piece of Charles Hartwell's trap. Choose the children or choose her sister. But not both. Never both. How long? Maya asked, her voice hollow as she held the phone to her ear. Without the treatment? The doctors say, maybe 6 weeks. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. Maya, I'm scared. Maya looked at Alexander, whose face had gone gray as he listened to the one-sided conversation. He understood the trap as clearly as she did. Choose the children or choose her sister. Charles Hartwell had engineered a scenario where any choice she made would destroy part of her family. Sarah, I'm going to fix this, Maya said, though she had no idea how. The funding coordinator said there were questions about the donor's legitimacy. Something about potential fraud investigations. Sarah's voice broke. Maya, who was paying for my treatment. What's happening? Maya closed her eyes. Even Sarah didn't know. Another year of thinking she was lucky, that some anonymous angel had swooped in to save her life, when it had all been Charles Hartwell's chess moves. "I'll call you back," Maya managed. She hung up and turned to Alexander, who was already pulling out his phone. "I'm calling my lawyer," he said. "There has to be something." "Your lawyer works for Hartwell Development," Maya pointed out. "Which means he works for your father." Alexander stopped dialing. "Then I'll find another lawyer." "With what? You said yourself you built your company from nothing. That means your father still controls the family money, the family connections, the family lawyers." Maya felt something breaking inside her chest. "You can't fight him, Alexander. You never could." "Maya, Stop." She held up a hand. "Just stop lying to me. To yourself. To everyone." Alexander's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his face went white. "It's him." "Answer it," Maya said quietly. "Let's hear what fresh hell he's prepared." Alexander put the call on speaker. "I trust you've had time to consider your options." Charles's voice was crisp, businesslike. "Where are my children?" Maya demanded. "Safe. Comfortable. Being cared for by professionals while the adults sort out this mess." "What mess?" "The mess you created. The mess created by 7 years of deception and my son's inability to think clearly where you're concerned." Charles's tone sharpened. "But we can resolve this civilly. Alexander, you have 5 minutes to get to my office. Alone. I'm not leaving Maya. You are if you want to see those children again. This is a family matter, and she is not family." Maya flinched at the casual cruelty of the words. "She's their mother," Alexander said fiercely. "Is she?" "Because according to my investigation, Maya Chin has been struggling with severe depression, has been behind on rent multiple times, and has been making increasingly erratic decisions. Just last week, she took the children to a restaurant she couldn't afford. Clearly a sign of financial instability and poor judgment." Maya stared at the phone in horror. He'd twisted their birthday dinner, their one small celebration, into evidence of her unfitness. "That's insane," Alexander said. "Is it?" "Alexander, you've been enabling her delusions for 3 years. Paying her bills, arranging for fake job promotions, ensuring she never had to face the consequences of her choices. What kind of mother allows a stranger to support her children for years without questioning it?" The words hit Maya like physical blows because underneath the manipulation was a kernel of truth that cut deep. She had been struggling. She had accepted help without asking questions. She had been so desperate to provide for her children that she'd ignored warning signs. "That's not fair," Alexander said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Fairness." Charles laughed. "Alexander, fairness would have been Maya telling you about the children 7 years ago instead of denying them their father. Fairness would have been Maya accepting reasonable support instead of forcing you to sneak around like a criminal. Fairness would have been Maya putting the children's needs before her pride." "I didn't know he was helping," Maya whispered. "Didn't you?" "Maya, sweetheart, deep down you had to know. The convenient promotions, the reduced bills, the lucky breaks that always came just when you needed them most. You chose not to look too closely because it was easier than facing the truth." Maya felt the last of her defenses crumble. Because he was right. Some part of her had wondered, had questioned the sudden run of good luck. But she'd wanted so desperately to believe she was finally making it on her own that she'd ignored the voice in her head asking questions. "Maya," Alexander reached for her, but she stepped away. "Don't. He's right. I should have known. I should have questioned it. You were doing your best. My best wasn't good enough." The words tore out of her. "My best was working 3 jobs and still coming up short. My best was lying awake at night wondering how I was going to pay for Emma's glasses or Lucas's asthma medication. My best was watching other kids have birthday parties while mine got a shared cupcake from the grocery store bakery." "Maya, stop." "No, let her continue," Charles interrupted. "This honesty is refreshing. My best," Maya continued, tears streaming down her face, "was telling my children bedtime stories about their father being a hero who had to go away, when the truth was he chose money over us, and I was too proud to fight for what we deserved." Alexander looked like she'd slapped him. "That's not what happened. Isn't it? You had a choice 7 years ago, and you chose your family's approval. You have a choice now, and you're going to make the same one." "I'm not." "Alexander." Charles's voice cut through the argument. 4 minutes. My office. Don't make me send people to collect you." Alexander looked between Maya and the phone, conflict written across his face. "Go," Maya said quietly. Maya, no. We stick together. We fight this together. How? With what weapons? What power? Maya laughed bitterly. Alexander, you've been lying to yourself. You think you built something independent, but you're still Charles Hartwell's son. You still live in his world, play by his rules, depend on his systems. That's not true. Prove it. Maya's voice was deadly calm. Choose me. Choose our children. Walk away from everything and choose us. The silence stretched between them like a chasm. Maya, if I lose everything, how can I protect you? How can I provide for the children? And there it was. The same fear that had driven him 7 years ago, dressed up in noble intentions, but rooted in the same fundamental belief that money was power and power was safety. 3 minutes, Alexander, Charles said. Go, Maya repeated, exhaustion seeping into her voice. Go save your inheritance. Save your company. Save whatever pieces of your father's world you can't bear to lose. Maya, that's not. It's exactly that. She turned away from him. I need to call Sarah back. I need to tell my sister she's going to die because I was too proud to admit I needed help and too naive to ask the right questions. We'll find another way to help Sarah. With what money? Alexander, even if by some miracle you manage to stand up to your father, even if you choose us over him, you'll have nothing. No money, no connections, no power to help anyone. Alexander opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. Because they both knew she was right. 2 minutes, Charles said. Alexander looked at Maya with desperation. Come with me. We'll face him together. So he can humiliate me in person? So I can watch you choose him over us one more time. Maya shook her head. I can't do it, Alexander. I can't watch you break my heart again. I won't. You already are. Maya's voice was broken. By hesitating. By calculating. By trying to figure out how to save everyone instead of just choosing us. Alexander's phone buzzed with a text. Asterisk Charles, building security is escorting you up now. Don't make this more difficult than necessary. Asterisk. Through the park, Maya could see 2 men in suits walking purposefully toward them. You have to go, Maya said. Maya, I love you. I love our children. Whatever happens in that office will prove what kind of man you really are. Maya's eyes were dry now, empty. 7 years ago, I convinced myself you were trapped by circumstances. That you wanted to choose love but couldn't. Now I know the truth. What truth? That you don't know how to choose anything over your father's approval. You never did. The men in suits were close enough now that Maya could see their faces. Professional, polite, implacable. Mr. Hartwell, one of them called. Your father is waiting. Alexander looked at Maya one last time, and she could see the moment he made his choice. Not in words, but in the way his shoulders straightened, the way his expression shifted from desperation to resignation. I'll fix this, he said quietly. No, Maya replied. You'll manage it. There's a difference. She watched him walk away with his father's men, and felt the last piece of her heart crumble to dust. Her phone buzzed. Asterisk Sarah, Maya? The doctors want to stop treatment tomorrow. I'm scared, asterisk. Maya stared at the message, then at the empty park where Alexander had disappeared, then at the bench where this nightmare had started. For the first time in 7 years, she had no idea what to do next. And somewhere in the city, her children were in the hands of strangers, believing their mother would come for them. But Maya was beginning to understand the terrible truth. Some promises were impossible to keep. Some fights were impossible to win. And some loves were impossible to save. The phone in her hand felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds as she dialed her sister's number to deliver the news that would destroy them both. Maya sat on the park bench, staring at her phone, trying to find words that didn't exist. How do you tell someone they're going to die because you weren't strong enough to save them? Her finger hovered over Sarah's contact when her phone rang with an unknown number. Maya-chan? The voice was unfamiliar, professional. Who is this? My name is Detective Rebecca Martinez, Financial Crimes Unit. I need to speak with you about Charles Hartwell. Maya's heart stopped. What about him? We've been investigating fraudulent charity organizations and money laundering schemes. Your sister's medical treatment fund came up in our audit. I don't understand. Ms. Chun, the foundation that's been paying for your sister's cancer treatment is legitimate. It was established 3 years ago with a legal endowment that cannot be withdrawn by any individual donor. Maya felt the world shift. What does that mean? It means whoever told you the funding was being pulled was lying. The treatment center has no legal grounds to stop your sister's care. The phone slipped from Maya's numb fingers. Charles Hartwell had been bluffing. The one threat that had broken her resolve, that had made her feel powerless, it was a lie. She called Sarah back with shaking hands. Maya, thank God. Sarah, listen to me. Call the treatment center right now. Tell them you want to speak to the legal department about the foundation that's funding your care. Tell them you know your rights. Maya, what's going on? Charles Hartwell has been manipulating us. But he doesn't have the power he wants us to think he has. After hanging up with Sarah, Maya's mind began racing. If Charles had lied about the medical treatment, what else had he lied about? The custody papers, the evidence of her unfitness, the legal authority he claimed to have? Her phone buzzed with a text from James, Alexander's security chief. Asterisk James, need to move the children again. Charles Hartwell's people found the safe house. Can you meet us at the backup location? Asterisk. Maya stared at the message, something cold settling in her stomach. How had Charles found the safe house so quickly? How had he known exactly where to pressure her? She called the number James had contacted her from earlier. The number you have dialed is not in service. Maya's blood turned to ice. She scrolled back through their text conversation, looking at the details she'd missed in her panic. The number was different. The phrasing was slightly off. James hadn't sent the latest message, which meant her children weren't safe, which meant they might never have been safe. Maya ran to Alexander's car, her hands shaking as she tried to remember the address of the real safe house. She had to find her children before Charles Hartwell's people did whatever they were planning. The drive across the city was a blur of panic and desperate prayers. Maya had never felt so powerless or so determined. Every traffic light felt like a lifetime, every turn potentially taking her further from Emma and Lucas. When she finally reached the address Alexander had given her, the house was dark. Empty. Maya pounded on the door anyway, her voice breaking as she called out. Emma! Lucas! Mommy's here. The silence was deafening. Her phone rang. Charles Hartwell. Looking for something? His voice was smooth with satisfaction. Where are my children? Our children are safe. Getting to know their grandfather. You kidnapped them. I rescued them. From a mother who was clearly having a breakdown, who abandoned them to chase after my son like a lovesick teenager. Maya felt something snap inside her chest. Not break, snap back into place. Like a bone setting after being fractured. You know what, Charles? Her voice was steady for the first time all day. You made a mistake. Did I? You assumed I was weak because I was struggling. You assumed I was powerless because I didn't have money. You assumed I was defeated because I loved your son. Maya, but you forgot something important. Maya's voice was getting stronger with each word. I've been fighting for my children every single day for 7 years. I've been poor, exhausted, overwhelmed, and scared. But I have never, not once, been defeated. Touching speech, but I'm not finished. Maya cut him off. You want to play games with custody laws and false evidence? Fine. But you just made this federal. What are you talking about? Kidnapping children across state lines is a federal crime, Charles. And I've been recording this conversation. The silence on the other end was gratifying. Maya continued, her voice like steel. You see, while you were busy manipulating everyone around you, I was doing something you clearly never taught Alexander to do. Which is, I was learning to think like someone who has nothing left to lose. Maya hung up and immediately dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? I need to report a kidnapping. 2 7-year-old children were taken by their grandfather without parental consent. As she gave the details to the dispatcher, Maya felt something she hadn't experienced in years. The absolute certainty that she was going to win. Not because she had money or power or connections, but because she was their mother. And there was no force on earth stronger than a mother fighting for her children. Her phone buzzed with a text from Alexander. Asterisk Alexander. Where are you? My father says you've lost your mind. Asterisk. Maya typed back. Asterisk I found it. Along with our children. Meet me at the FBI field office on Constitution Avenue asterisk. Asterisk Alexander. FBI? Maya, what are you doing? Asterisk. Asterisk Maya. What you should have done 7 years ago. I'm fighting back. Asterisk. Her phone rang immediately. Alexander. Maya, you don't understand what you're dealing with. My father has lawyers, connections. Your father is a man who thinks money can solve any problem and power can silence any truth, Maya interrupted. But he forgot something. What? The truth doesn't need money to survive. It just needs someone brave enough to tell it. Maya, he'll destroy you. He'll destroy all of us. And there it was. 7 years later, and Alexander was still calculating the cost instead of choosing what was right. Maybe, Maya said quietly. But at least our children will know their mother fought for them. Can you say the same about their father? The silence stretched between them. Maya, I'm trying to protect. You're trying to protect yourself. From having to make hard choices, from losing your father's approval, from becoming the man you were meant to be instead of the man he wants you to be. That's not fair. Alexander, I'm going to save our children. With or without you. But I need to know right now, are you going to help me, or are you going to let your father win again? Another long pause. What do you need me to do? Alexander's voice was quiet, but there was something different in it. Something that sounded like resolve. I need you to choose us. Not because it's easy, not because you've calculated the odds, not because you think you can manage the consequences. I need you to choose us because you love us more than you fear him. Maya, and Alexander? I need you to do it knowing that we might lose everything. Your company, your fortune, your family name. Everything except each other. The silence stretched so long Maya thought he'd hung up. Then, where did you say that FBI office was? Maya closed her eyes, feeling something that might have been hope bloom in her chest. Constitution Avenue. And Alexander? Yeah. Bring everything. Every file, every recording, every piece of evidence you have about your father's business practices. Because we're not just getting our children back. What are we doing? Maya's smile was fierce. We're making sure Charles Hartwell never hurts another family the way he hurt ours. For the first time in 7 years, Maya Chen wasn't running from a fight. She was starting one. The FBI field office on Constitution Avenue buzzed with controlled chaos as Maya sat in Agent Rebecca Martinez's office, watching federal agents coordinate what she'd learned was the culmination of a 3-year investigation into Charles Hartwell's business empire. We've been building this case for years, Agent Martinez explained, spreading files across the conference table. Money laundering, fraud, witness intimidation, illegal surveillance. Your ex-boyfriend's father has been busy. Maya stared at the mountain of evidence. How long have you known about me? About the children? Since the beginning. Agent Martinez's expression was grim. You weren't Charles Hartwell's first victim, Miss Chen. There have been others. Families destroyed, businesses ruined, people who crossed the Hartwell empire who simply disappeared from their old lives. Then why didn't you? Because we needed someone on the inside. Someone Charles trusted who could get us the evidence we needed for prosecution. Maya's blood chilled. Alexander has been working with us for 2 years, a familiar voice said from the doorway. Maya spun around to see Alexander walking in, but he wasn't alone. Behind him were Emma and Lucas, safe and unharmed, flanked by real FBI agents. Mommy! Emma launched herself into Maya's arms, followed immediately by Lucas. Are you okay? Are you hurt? Where have you been? Maya's hands shook as she checked them over, unable to believe they were really there. We got to see the FBI office, Lucas said excitedly. And Agent Sarah taught us about fingerprints. We knew it was an adventure, Emma added seriously. Daddy told us we were helping catch a bad guy. Maya looked up at Alexander, who was watching them with an expression of profound relief and something that looked like fear. Daddy, she repeated quietly. I told them, Alexander said, his voice rough. While we were waiting for you. I couldn't let them go another minute without knowing. Agent Martinez cleared her throat. Perhaps we should explain the full situation. Maya settled the twins in chairs with coloring books. Apparently the FBI was well prepared for family meetings, and turned her attention to Alexander and the agent. 2 years ago, Agent Martinez began, Alexander Hartwell came to us with evidence of his father's criminal activities. Financial records, recorded conversations, documented threats against business rivals. You've been investigating your own father? Maya asked. Alexander nodded, looking exhausted. Ever since I found out what he'd done to us. What he'd done to other families like ours. But you let me think. That I was weak. That I was still under his control. Alexander's voice was steady but pained. Maya, if my father had suspected for 1 second that I was building a case against him, he would have disappeared. Along with any evidence of his crimes. Agent Martinez pulled out a thick folder. Alexander's been documenting everything. The surveillance network his father maintained on dozens of families, the financial manipulation, the threats, the witness intimidation. Even the fake custody papers he filed today. Fake. Maya's heart stopped. Charles Hartwell has no legal authority to file for custody of your children, Alexander said. He never did. But he counted on you not knowing that, not having the resources to fight back. Maya stared at him. The private investigator reports. The help with my jobs, the bills. Were real, Alexander admitted. But Maya, I wasn't manipulating your life. I was documenting how my father was manipulating it. Agent Martinez nodded. Charles Hartwell has been running what amounts to a protection racket disguised as philanthropy. He identifies vulnerable families, provides anonymous help, then uses that help as leverage when he needs favors or silence. Or when his son falls in love with someone he doesn't approve of, Alexander added bitterly. Maya felt like the ground was shifting beneath her feet. How many families? 43 that we can prove, Agent Martinez said. Probably more. Single mothers, struggling small business owners, people with medical debt, anyone who might be grateful enough for help not to ask too many questions. And if they stopped being grateful? Maya asked, though she was afraid of the answer. Their help disappeared, along with anything else my father could destroy. Alexander's jaw was tight. Jobs, homes, custody of children, immigration status, whatever pressure point he could find. Maya looked at the twins, who were happily coloring FBI badges and completely unaware that their lives had been orchestrated by a man they'd never met. So when you found me today, wasn't an accident, Alexander confirmed. But not in the way my father made it sound. Maya, I'd been trying to figure out how to approach you for months. How to tell you the truth without putting you in danger. And Marcus Reed is real and dangerous, but he's been working for my father the entire time, Agent Martinez said. We've had him under surveillance for weeks. Today's blackmail scenario was designed to flush out any remaining evidence and force you both into positions where Charles felt he had complete control. Maya's head was spinning. So everything today was my father's endgame, Alexander said. He knew I was getting close to someone, even if he didn't know it was the FBI. He wanted to remind me what he was capable of, how much power he had over the people I loved. But you knew he was going to threaten us. Alexander's face was anguished. I suspected. But Maya, I couldn't tell you without compromising the investigation. And I couldn't risk you or the children getting hurt if something went wrong. So you let me think you were weak. You let me think you were choosing him over us again. I was protecting you the only way I knew how. Maya stood up abruptly, anger and relief and 7 years of accumulated pain crashing over her in waves. By lying to me. Again. Maya, you made the same choice you made 7 years ago, Alexander. You decided what was best for me without asking me. You took away my agency, my right to make my own decisions about the risks I was willing to take. Alexander looked stricken. I was trying to keep you safe. I didn't need you to keep me safe. Maya's voice cracked. I needed you to trust me. To believe I was strong enough to handle the truth. To fight beside you instead of protecting me from the sidelines. The room fell silent except for the sound of Emma and Lucas coloring, oblivious to the adult drama playing out around them. Agent Martinez cleared her throat diplomatically. Perhaps we should focus on what happens next. We have enough evidence to arrest Charles Hartwell on multiple federal charges. His ability to threaten your family is over. What about his money? His connections? Maya asked. Frozen assets, pending investigation. And his connections won't help him in federal prison. Maya sank into her chair, the magnitude of it all hitting her. It's really over? The criminal part, yes, Agent Martinez said. But there will be trials, testimony, media attention. The next few months won't be easy. Maya looked at Alexander, who was watching her with an expression of hope and terror. There's something else, he said quietly. Maya, the surveillance of you, it wasn't just about building a case. I was trying to work up the courage to approach you. To tell you the truth and ask if there was any chance, any possibility, that you could forgive me. For what? For leaving. For staying away. For not fighting harder 7 years ago. Alexander's voice broke. For not being the man you deserved then, and for not being brave enough to be that man until now. Maya studied his face, older, wearier, but with something in his eyes she hadn't seen since college. Something that looked like the boy who used to talk about changing the world, who used to believe love could conquer anything. The company you built, she said slowly, the one you said was yours, built from nothing, is going to be donated, Alexander said, to a foundation that helps families like the ones my father targeted. Maya, I don't want his world. I don't want his money or his power or his name. What do you want? Maya's voice was barely a whisper. Alexander looked at Emma and Lucas, then back at her. I want to be the father they deserve. The the partner you deserve. I want to build something real with you, something that's ours. Even if it means starting over with nothing? Especially then. Alexander's smile was shaky but genuine. Maya, I've been rich and miserable for 7 years. I'd rather be poor and happy with you. Before Maya could respond, Emma looked up from her coloring. Daddy, are you going to live with us now? The simple question hung in the air, containing all the hope and possibility and terror of starting over. Alexander looked at Maya, the question in his eyes. And for the first time in 7 years, Maya-chan realized she wasn't afraid to hope. 6 months later, Maya stood in the kitchen of their modest apartment, counting bills again. But this time, her hands weren't trembling with desperation. This time, she was calculating how much they could afford to donate to the new foundation Alexander had established. The one that helped families recover from financial manipulation and fraud. 27, 28, 29. She paused, smiling at the familiar ritual that had once filled her with terror. 30, Alexander finished from the doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee. Some things never change. Everything's changed, Maya corrected, accepting the coffee gratefully. I'm counting money we actually have for a cause we believe in a life we chose together. Through the window, they could see Emma and Lucas playing in the small courtyard, their laughter carrying on the autumn breeze. The children had adapted to their new reality with the resilience that only 7-year-olds possessed, though they still asked occasional questions about why Grandpa Charles was in timeout with the government, as Alexander had carefully explained. Sarah called, Maya said, settling into Alexander's arms. The experimental treatment worked. She's officially in remission. Alexander pressed a kiss to the top of her head. That's incredible. The doctor said without the early intervention, without that foundation. Maya's voice caught. I keep thinking about how many other families Charles was manipulating. How many people suffered because they didn't have someone willing to fight back. They do now, Alexander reminded her. The foundation has helped 43 families get back on their feet. It's not enough to undo all the damage, but it's a start. Maya leaned back against his chest, marveling at how right this felt. How natural it was to be partners in every sense of the word. The past 6 months hadn't been easy. The media attention during Charles Hartwell's trial had been brutal. The financial strain of starting over had been real, and learning to trust each other again had required countless difficult conversations. But they'd faced it together, as equals, as partners who chose each other every single day. The job interview went well, Maya said. The nonprofit wants someone to head their family advocacy program. And I said yes. Maya turned in his arms to see his face. It means travel, long hours, fighting big corporations that hurt vulnerable families. Alexander's smile was proud and a little awed. Maya Chun, Crusader for Justice. I love it. It also means a regular income, no guarantees, and probably making enemies of powerful people. Sounds perfect for us, Alexander said, and meant it. Besides, I've gotten used to being the boyfriend of a woman who's braver than I am. Boyfriend? Maya raised an eyebrow. Is that what we're calling this? Alexander's expression suddenly shifted to nervous. Actually, I was hoping we might upgrade the terminology. Before Maya could ask what he meant, Emma came racing through the door. Mommy, Daddy's being weird again. Weird how? Maya asked, though she noticed Alexander had moved to block her view of the living room. He made Lucas help him hang sparkly things everywhere, Emma reported dramatically. And there's music playing, and he keeps checking his watch like he's expecting something. Maya looked at Alexander suspiciously. What did you do? Nothing, he said, but his grin was giving him away. Just thought we should celebrate. Celebrate what? The fact that it's been exactly 7 months since our second first date. Maya stared at him. Our second first date was a blackmail scheme orchestrated by your criminal father. Details, Alexander said airily. The point is, it brought us back together. Lucas appeared in the doorway, bouncing with excitement. Daddy, can we do it now? Can we ask her now? Ask me what? Maya's heart was starting to race. Alexander took her hands, his expression shifting from playful to serious. Maya, 7 years ago I made the worst mistake of my life when I walked away from you. For months now, I've been trying to find the right words, the right moment, the right way to ask you something important. Alexander. Then I realized something. His voice was steady but emotional. There's no perfect moment. There's no magical combination of words that can undo the past or guarantee the future. There's just this moment, right now, with our children watching and our whole imperfect, beautiful life spread out in front of us. Maya's eyes filled with tears as Alexander dropped to one knee. Maya Chin, you are the strongest, bravest, most incredible woman I've ever known. You raised our children to be kind and thoughtful and fierce. You fought for our family when I was too scared to fight for anything. You taught me that love isn't about protection, it's about partnership. He pulled out a simple ring, not expensive, not flashy, but perfect. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of the family we've built together? Maya looked at the ring, then at Alexander's hopeful face, then at Emma and Lucas, who were practically vibrating with excitement. Yes, she whispered, then louder. Yes, of course, yes. The children erupted in cheers as Alexander slipped the ring onto her finger and swept her into a kiss that tasted like coffee and promises and the kind of future she'd stopped daring to dream about. When they broke apart, Emma was already planning the wedding with the efficiency of a 7-year-old CEO. We need a cake, she announced. And flowers. And can Lucas and I walk you down the aisle? Absolutely. Maya laughed through her tears. Alexander wrapped his arms around all three of them, and Maya felt the last piece of her heart click into place. They'd lost so much, time, innocence, the simple love story they'd started with. But what they'd built in its place was stronger, more real. They'd learned that love wasn't about protection or perfection. It was about choosing each other, again and again, through every challenge and every joy. As the children dragged them into the living room to see the decorations Alexander had hung, twinkling lights and photos of their small family, Maya caught their reflection in the window. 3 years ago, she'd been a woman who counted dollars with trembling hands, terrified of not being enough. Now she was a woman who knew her worth couldn't be measured in money or status or even stability. Her worth was in her fierce love for her children, her willingness to fight for what mattered, and her courage to build a life based on truth instead of fear. And the man beside her, the father of her children, her partner in every battle, had learned that real strength came not from avoiding difficult choices, but from making them with love as his guide. It wasn't the fairy tale they'd imagined in college. It was better. It was real. What did this story teach you about the power of choosing love over fear, even when the cost seems too high? About the strength that comes from fighting for what matters most? Drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more stories that will change how you see the world. Because sometimes the greatest victories come not from avoiding the battle, but from having the courage to fight for what you love.